Well, it's Thursday wrestling, and you all know what that means. That means once again we get to review MLW, NXT UK, and Impact Wrestling. But we also got some news updates regarding some upcoming matches and other things. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, let's begin with MLW with this event called The Rise of the Renegades 22. It's not number 22, it's just 2022. It opened up with a Mexican lumberjack match. Now, some of you are probably saying, what the hell is a Mexican lumberjack? Well, you're not going to use leather like where they get beat up. You get leather straps, basically belts. You get whacked in it. And the fighters in this match is none other than Gino Medina and Aramis. Now, these two guys have been at it with each other ever since Gino Medina lost his mind, ever since he got pinned by Microman. Now, keep in mind, that particular day was the day where he was embarrassed, he felt humiliated, but he decided to take his frustrations on the one person who was on that very same team with Microman, Aramis. And what does he get for his trouble? El Jefe decided to pay him. So this is more of a revenge match for Aramis for all what he's done. But Gino doesn't care. So he tries to. There are moments where, of course, we got the heels only attacking the faces and the faces on the heels, but it kind of goes in every way. But however, Gino Medina, being the little slide guy that he is, he pinned Aramis in order to pick up the victory by grabbing his tights up inwards to ensure he stays there. Now, however, as you know, Gino Medina was about to give his little post-match interview to Aramis, did not take the kindly. So this looks like this feud between both Aramis and Gino Medina is far from over. Now, as you know, they're in Texas. You know whose country is that? It's Von Erich's country. However, Hammer kind of felt bad for Von Erich because he dragged him into this, but Von Erich told him, no, it's not your fault. We never liked Cesar Duran from the very beginning, so they knew exactly, just like Hammerstone, they knew that he was shady, so they knew that there was no way they could trust him. But I didn't like what Ross mentioned. He said, it may be Texas, Von Erich country, but tonight is Von Hammer. So I have to say, they should form like a faction, because I feel like those three can get along great, you know? So they're going to be in the main event against Richard Holiday, Max Kruger, and King Muertes. Now, as you know, Richard Holiday has been saying that he is the proprietor, or whatever he calls it. Basically telling that it was all about him. So that's what he thinks. But he does believe and confident enough that he will beat Hammerstone and become the brand new MLW World Heavyweight Champion. Now, our next match we have is the Caribbean Championship. Now, if you guys remember this particular title, this was brought by Savio Vega. This is King Muertes was the previous holder until he lost the title to none other than, of course, Octagon Jr. And he puts himself in a match against Matt Cross, who was last time there was a number one contendership between TJP and him. And of course, Matt Cross won. And I thought this match was pretty good because, as you know, this is one of those matches where it feels like, you know, like Octagon Jr. has been one of the most newer wrestlers that we can get behind on, and I thought it was pretty good. Also, two of the most extremely high flyer wrestlers we definitely can enjoy watching. But unfortunately, Octagon Jr. walked away as the victor, retaining the title. Now, most likely, as you know, Cesar Duran, there are times he's always in a good mood or a bad mood. But however, he runs into Microman. As you know, he can't stand him. He was not satisfied that he did not lose his match and decided to force him to leave MLW. But he still has unfinished business. However, he almost got himself in a big pickle with none other than, of course, Holiday, Aries, and Dr. Dax. But luckily, La Güera Loca, Teo Valkyrie, and Lince Dorado showed up the helping hand. So I have to say, Microman, he has friends in high places. Now, last time we saw KC Navarro, as you know, he defeated Enzo Amore. I did not witness that. But, however, the obvious question did remain, who will be now, what's next for him? But it looks like it was nowhere near further, so he decided that he's going to challenge for the MLW middleweight title. However, I don't know how Myron Reed will feel. I think he feels that maybe Casey Navarro is a bit cocky than he looks. I mean, he is a fantastic wrestler. There's no denying that. But we won't know when when that match took place, but we can definitely see that. Now, once again, Mads Kruger with his little propaganda. As you know, he still has his war against Jacob Fatu. Keep in mind, Mads Kruger blames Jacob Fatu for the downfall of Contra Unit and that sort of thing. But it was later revealed they're going to be a match between them, their final match, Weapons of Mass Destruction. Now, it appears recently, since I did not see MLW last week, there's been word surfacing that someone has been, funding or making beneficiary to the Bumaye Fight Club. So Alex Kane, as you know, the last time I saw him, he had his target on the MLW tag team titles, believing that those titles don't belong to Hustle and Power. However, he feels that those titles should be coming straight to Bumaye, including the MLW World Heavyweight Championship. And hell, he could have someone join, a woman join get the women's featherweight division. But it's still unclear who is behind that. So we won't know until we see it. Now, as you know, Battle Riot is coming out soon, so they announced more participants. I don't know who was announced from last week, but here's what I got for this week. We have Enzo Amore, the American Wolf, Davey Richards, Little Guido, yeah, Ace Romero, Savio Vega, Joel and Jose Maximos, the Spanish announce team. I'm excited for this particular thing. I don't know who's involved, but I'm sure it's going to be. See? Hold on. It's going to be a crazy match. However, let's jump in now to the main event, where we have King Muertes, Mads Kruger, and Richard Holiday versus Von Hammers. Now, you know for a fact this is one of those matches where Richard Holiday wants to prove he is a well-deserving and a much better champion than Hammerstone. But of course, like any other match that we normally see, Alicia Atout distracts the referee until it gives Richard Holiday the time to whack Hammerstone with a weapon, and the ref did not see it. 1, 2, 3, it's over. But the obvious question is, could this be a sign? Could Hammerstone's reign come to an end? Well, we won't know until that day comes. So let's call it right here and move on with NXT UK. Okay, NXT UK. So let's begin with our first match. We have Mark Andrews versus the Cockroach, Kenny Williams. Now, remember correctly, Mark Andrews had his fair issues with Kenny in the past. Now, Kenny, as you know, he likes to piss people off. Mark Andrews warned him that he has more than one enemy, but Kenny Williams believed he doesn't. Now, the match was pretty interesting, basically. However, things did not go according to plan for Kenny Williams. Once again, the mysterious Tiger Turan shows up. It causes Kenny Williams to lose focus, but it gave enough time for Mark Andrews to pick up a huge victory. And this is put Kenny Williams beside himself, not realizing he lost. But the obvious question he needs to answer himself: who in the hell is Tiger Turan? What did he ever done to him? Now, Kenny Williams thinks he did nothing wrong to him, but he has pissed off a lot of people. I can give you guys a list. Hope he pissed off. I mean, look, he pissed off Sam Gradwell, Saxon Huxley, who else? Many others. So the real question is, what's his beef? Well, we won't know. Now, it's been almost a couple of weeks since Joe Coffey left. As you know, he hasn't been himself. NXT UK, whoever's doing the reports on this, asked Mark Coffey if he has heard anything from his brother. Now, Mark Coffey, he doesn't know what he thinks about it, but he is a bit more concerned and worried about him. But luckily, he did call him. You know, we don't know what was all about in the conversation, but I think Mark refuses to tell him, you need to come back. I think he feels that things have not been the same. As you know, the Gallows has not been the top dominant for quite some time. They haven't won any championships. They've been kind of dethroned by the Familia, but we don't know. So he did tell him to take all the time that he needs, but he tells him that he needs to stay that he needs to communicate more with the family, basically brothers, sisters, parents, that sort of thing. Mark Coffey knows that he cannot convince him to come back if he's not 100% himself. So we'll see what happens. Now, our next match, this one was a very interesting one. We have Ollie Blake and Tate Mayfair's taking on Symbiosis, T-Bone, and Primate, along with that devil, Eddie Dennis. I have to say, Symbiosis look more like they're getting back on the right track where they need to go. So they picked up a very huge victory, but this became the end of Symbiosis. What I did not anticipate was the fact that T-Bone and Primate, they turned on Eddie Dennis. They beat him senselessly and all of that, left him lying in the middle of the ring like a dead duck. But this is the far more interesting part that later saw. Primate and T-Bone shook hands, walked their separate ways. The obvious question is, what happened? Now, I cannot guess what it is, but I can take a crack at it. Possibly, maybe Primate did not agree with the idea of kicking out Wild Boar. Or maybe that dog collar match that Eddie Dennis was mostly like the pinnacle, that the fact is Eddie Dennis wasn't strong and powerful and untouchable like maybe people thought. Who knows? But it did tells us in every aspect that this is the end of Symbiosis. But the real question does remain: what is next for Eddie Dennis? I'm sure in the back of his mind he felt that he gave them everything, but there is one thing he hasn't given them: the tag titles. That is something that many people would agree, but he failed to deliver. Now, as you know, our main event is for the NXT UK Women's Championship. And Dragunov, as you know, he's a bit more excited for this particular match because he admires Meiko Satomura. Because, as you know, he is himself is the current NXT UK champion. He says that they both are proud to represent NXT UK. And I think that tells us that he's going to be rooting for her because, as you know, the final boss still has a lot to look, has more to come. As you know, she hasn't been defeated just yet. But the obvious question is, this is going to be the biggest challenge of her career. Now, our next match, we have the French Hope Amel versus Eliza Alexander. You know, this feud between Amel and most likely Xia Brookside has been continuing on. Xia Brookside believed that it was unfair that she lost her match to Amel the first time. And then, of course, when she defeated her, all thanks to Eliza. But Amel wanted to get her revenge on Eliza for interfering and costing her the match. But once again, Xia Brookside got involved, costing her once again the match, proving that she is going to be at the top. But how long would that take? We don't know. Now, as you know, Damien Kemp has been on the receiving end of those idiots, Shaw Samuels and Noah Darman. As you know, Shaw Samuels claimed that he is the true wrestler of British pro wrestling. Damien Kemp is there to learn, and he thinks that the guy like him doesn't deserve to be there. But he made a very unusual friend. But to me as a fan, I think this is going to be an interesting thing. He decides to go out for drinks with Wolfgang. I feel Wolfgang is one of those guys that, you know, he can fight, but he knows how to have a good time. And of course, they ended up drunk. I thought it was great. So, now, as you know, Lash Legend, ever since coming to NXT UK, she has been, how do I put this, giving the NXT UK women's division unnoticed. But however, someone took exception to her crap, and that is Stevie Turner. Now, you can say in the back of everybody's mind, that means the entire NXT UK women's division probably will not appreciate her coming to their backyard. So, Emil McKenzie felt, how would Stevie Turner feel? Well, we don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Lash Legend ends up facing the final boss, Meiko Satomura. But right now, she has to contend with Stevie Turner. Now, it's main event time. We got the NXT UK Women's Championship, Ivy Nile versus the final boss, Meiko Satomura. I think this is a very interesting match because, as you know, Meiko Satomura has been in different tough challenges. Recently, she had a tough challenge with Aladon in the Darkness match, World of Darkness match. But this is different. Now you got Ivy Nile, who is in fact one of the most impressive wrestlers that we've ever witnessed. And the obvious question is, how can the final boss overcome somewhat of her ability? That's the obvious question. We all thought the same thing about Aladon. We thought that maybe this could be the end of Meiko Satomura's reign, but no, it didn't. But what I did like is how Meiko Satomura overturned the submission move, the Dragon Sleeper, on Meiko Satomura, and Meiko Satomura turned it into a pinfall. That is something you don't see. Somehow she figured it out, and boom, she retained the title that way. And I think that was an amazing. I'm sure Ivy Nile is disappointed that she lost, but mark my words, she will become champion, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's the one who dethrones Mandy Rose. I would definitely see that. But this match was great. I liked it. So I think that's pretty much it with NXT UK. I believe we should do our final review, Impact Wrestling. Okay, Impact Wrestling opened up with the Death Machine, Sami Callihan, sending a direct message to Moose. As you know, Sami Callihan has been on the warpath to hurt Moose for what took place last year. Now, Moose might have thought that maybe it was the end of him, but no. So we'll see what happens. Now, our opening match, we have Tennille Dashwood along with Madison Rayne taking on Rosemary. Now, remember, 2 weeks ago, Havoc lost in a big match, and I think Rosemary blames the influence for what took place. But the really crazy part is Rosemary had to go it alone. She did not have Havoc by her side. She had to deal with, of course, Madison Rayne being in the same location as her. But however, it did not work exactly for the influence. Rosemary picked up a very huge victory on Tenille. But however, the influence decided to give a little beat down on Rosemary. But the surprising is Tail Valkyrie decided to help her former friend. And it was a good thing she did. But I think the obvious thing is, will those two ever hug it out, be friends again? We don't know. Things have changed ever since Tail Valkyrie left. I don't know if Rosemary felt that maybe she's still upset that she left or whatever. But I know for a fact, many fans would love to see those two unite. But we'll see where they're going to go with that. Now, as you know, at Slammiversary, the Good Brothers are in a match against the Briscoes. The Good Brothers decided to pay a little visit to the chicken farm where the Briscoes are from, tried to send a message directly to them, and I think they ran into Papa Briscoe, but they were sneak attacked by none other than the Briscoes, and things went into a brawl, basically. However, the Briscoes got the upper hand when they had big weapons, and the Good Brothers skedoodle out. So don't ever go to the farm. Now, as you know, last time, I did not witness it, Rhino was taken out by Honor No More. He's had to give the updates, so they're saying that he's going to be out for a couple of months. However, the one thing Heath is on his mind is to get even with Honor No More for what they have caused. But his primary focus is to hurt them badly before Slammiversary. As you know, Honor No More are trying to take control of Impact Wrestling to erase the history, including one particular history, TNA. But of course, Heath is determined to take matters into his own hands. Now, our next match, this was one of the most insane matches I've ever witnessed. Steve Maclin versus PCO. I mean, I have seen worse things, the most craziest things that PCO has done over time. Arm broken, bleeding out. I don't know what I saw. It was crazy. But when you thought that Steve Maclin thought in his mind, it's over, he now sees exactly what Jonah saw. Jonah saw that he is a monster. That you can't kill him. That he's not human. But the obvious question remains, is this feud between PCO and Steve Maclin over? I would like to say possibly no. But if I was Steve Maclin, I would come up with the game plan. Now, like I said before, I did not witness last week's Impact. As you know, things didn't go exactly according to plan for Tasha Steelz. Now, as you know, Tasha Steelz did not like the idea of Mia Yim appearing in Impact Wrestling because she wanted Savannah Evans to be part of the Queen of the Mountain match. But however, the match is only for current and former Knockouts champions. Apparently, things didn't go according to plan because Deonna Purrazzo needed her help. But Tasha Steelz thinks, oh, you don't need it. But apparently, Deonna Purrazzo does have friends in high places, and that particular is her old pal, Chelsea Green. So, Chelsea Green did say that it doesn't hurt to ask for a little help. And of course, Deonna agrees. I think what Tasha Steelz failed to realize, it's every woman for themselves. And I think that's what Deonna Purrazzo is trying to tell her. Now, she knows that Chelsea Green wants that title. Everybody does. You can't make friends while you're pursuing the title. Now, we just saw a TNA person from the past, Matt Morgan, shows up. So basically, he said he's happy that he's going to be watching Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary, but his little interview was interrupted by Vincent telling him that everything that TNA used to is going to be faded away, basically to wiped out from existence. Now, our next match, we have Joe Dorian along with Violent by Design to take on the Walking Weapon, Josh Alexander. This is one of those matches where Josh, we know he will not back down from a fight, no matter what. But he knows that his primary focus is watching his eyes, the back of his eyes against Eric Young. But what happened next? Diener was dumb enough to bring a flag, and he used it against Joe Dorian. Ended up in a disqualification. But Eric Young intending to hurt Josh, but Josh saw it coming. But the obvious thing is this: is Eric Young possibly believing that he will obtain that title one way or the other? Well, we'll see when that day comes. Now, as I mentioned before, Sami Callihan has now on the warpath against Moose. Now, Moose, as you know, he has to contend with him. He's not afraid of him. It's obvious. But the one thing that is bothering him is that he should have still been world heavyweight champion. But it did not. Sami Callihan, on the other hand, took that opportunity from him. But he decided to go on a search for him, which he did. But it became more of a trap. Sami Callihan was being chased by Moose into a room, but what Moose failed to realize, this whole thing was a trap. He already made Sami bleed, but he had the key to the room, where it's like a storage place or whatever. But Sami was able to gouge his eyes with the key or something and walked out and lock him in. But it's later been confirmed that they will be in Slammiversary in a Monster Balls match. This is going to be one of the most brutal matches we're definitely going to be enjoying. Now, as you know what happened this past weekend, news has finally spread that the current Impact Wrestling's X Division champion is now a member of the Bullet Club, which is shocking, surprising. So basically now Bullet Club owns the X Division title. Ace Austin is yet to return yet. We haven't seen him for this particular episode, but we'll see what happens. But it was later foretold, as you know, Ace Austin's now former best friend, Alex Zane, has now been added into the final spot for the match in Slammiversary for the Ultimate X match. Now, I yet to hear what Ace Austin has to say. Probably he's going to question D'Amore why. Why add him? I think D'Amore did not expect it, Ace to join the Bullet Club, but possibly like, why not? Or did Alex Zane plead it? We don't know. That's the obvious question. Hopefully next week we'll get the answer to that. Now, I did cover Wrestling Revolver Vegas Vacation. In this match, we saw Matt Cardona putting the Digital Media Championship on the line against Rich Swann, which he lost. As you know, Cardona calls it the Digital Media World Championship. It's not a world championship, but he thinks that's how it is. He took the title when he low blowed during the celebration, and he puts out a video saying that he is still the Digital Media Champion, that he did not lose it. We saw it. I saw it. Fans saw it. But instead, he decided, since he's unable to compete, he gave the title to Brian Myers, proclaiming him to be the new Digital Media World Champion. But I don't know if Brian Myers was dumb or selfish. He decided to put a challenge against Swann in Slammiversary. Is this a wise choice? Well, I don't know. But we'll see what happens then. Now, our main event is a small preview for Slammiversary, where we have Honor No More versus the current and past TNA Impact Wrestling. Now, as you know, Honor No More are attempting to change everything about Impact Wrestling, believing it's corrupted, that it needs to change under their image. So Honor No More had Eddie Edwards, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett taking on Frankie Kazarian, the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley. The match was unbelievably great, but things go sideways when Mike Bennett decided to low blow Chris Sabin, giving Honor No More the victory. But however, Heath shows up, who wants retribution for what they did to Rhino. He had everything under control until Kenny King and Vincent showed up and giving him a beatdown. Frank Kazarian tried to get involved, but it was too much. The number of games continues, but however, they decide to break Heath's ankle, and of course, Honor No More are sending a message saying that soon things will come to a change, and that's what they want. But the real question is, can Impact Wrestling stop them? Well, we'll see on that very particular day. So I think that's pretty much it right now for reviewing every event that we have. So let's move on with some news updates. Okay, here are some news updates for everyone. As you know, this was all about matches that have been booked and set for upcoming events. Now, the first one we have is, of course, LA Fights. As you know, I mentioned already, a match has been announced for Volume 5. That's going to take place on the 26th of this month. We have, of course, now Starboy Charlie versus Lucas Riley. That's a very impressive match that everybody is going to be enjoying. But this next one, this one got me a little bit curious. And this one's coming from ICW No Holds Barred. Now, their latest event that's coming up, I believe, is NBH 26. We're going to have the American Deathmatch Championship on the line. The champion himself, Eric Ryan, versus Atticus Cogar. Yeah, let me repeat that. Eric Ryan, the champion, versus his challenger, Atticus Cogar. Now you're probably saying in the back of your head, whoa, wait a minute. It's 440 versus 440? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, I could see this in a different perspective. Eric Ryan may want to be a little easy on Atticus Cogar. Maybe that's what he'll think. But if I know Atticus Cogar, he's going to go full speed ahead, have no remorse, beat the crap out of him, and win the title. That's what I see, because Atticus Cogar has proven time and time again. It didn't matter if it's in GCW, ICW, One Point Wrestling. I don't care where, or in Circle 6, or in No Peace Underground. He has proven time and time again why he is the best deathmatch wrestler. That is most likely obvious. So I would say, if I'm Eric Ryan, put your feelings of 440 to the side and just win the match as possible. Or else, if you put that, the Silver-Tooth Satan wins. That's how I see it. I think this is going to be an interesting match. I definitely gotta watch it. Now, our last match that was announced, this is for the upcoming GCW event in San Francisco, and they're calling this Back to the Bay. We have Mexican wrestlers Macizos, Ciclopse, and Miedo Extremo versus Jacob Fatu and Juicy Finau. I'm really gonna be in. This is going to be one extreme crazy match, but I think it's the advantage that kind of tells us. But I can't wait to see this. It's gonna be fun. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. The fair warning. Today is, of course, June 10th, I believe. I don't know I'll be able to watch Rampage today, but if not, I'll do it tomorrow. Keep the next review short because I got another review after that, and so on and so on. But I think right now we just ended like right here in this particular segment, and we'll see what happened because, as you know, I'm leaving this particular area, heading my way back to San Diego, California. Well, first taking a 14-hour bus ride back to Tijuana, pick up the car, then drive across the border. So we'll see what happens. If I'm unable not to put anything for that, I apologize. So we'll see what happens then. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day.